Hello and namaste to all. This is Jala sir and today's discussion is about figures of speech or literary devices. What do we mean by the figure here? Figure in this context means form or pattern. So basically, literary devices are forms or types of expressions either written or spoken. It's a special use of language where the purpose is to make the expression more beautiful, more effective, more interesting, or more amusing. In this way, the speaker or writer creates the desired effect by the use of these devices. For example, if I say this place is very beautiful, it would be known as ordinary use of language or the common use of language. But if I say the place is a paradise, so here I have used figurative language. The desired effect was to emphasize on the beauty of the place. One more example, instead of saying I love India, if I say I love Mother India, here the purpose of the speaker, it means my purpose is to give emotional appeal to the expression. These special uses are of various types. Let's know about some of them. In this presentation, I have used phrases instead of full definitions or expressions of the figures with a view to making them shorter and simpler. So let's start. The first one, simile. Simile is comparison using so, as, or like. Example A, she is like a fairy. Here, a woman or a girl is compared with a fairy. B, he fought like a lion. Here, a man or a boy is compared with a lion, or his fighting skills are compared with that of a lion. Now, what we have noticed here is first thing, the comparison should not be between two things which are equal in importance and status. For example, if you say that she is like the other girl, some other girl in her class, it's not a simile. If you say he fought like his brother, it is not a simile. Here we have used some elements of nature to show and to express and to display some qualities. For example, fairy represents beauty and innocence, and lion is a symbol of fearlessness and bravery. So when you say she is like a fairy, doesn't mean that she has wings and she is a supernatural being, but it simply means she is beautiful and innocent. In B also, if you say he fought like a lion, doesn't mean that he fought with claws and teeth, but he fought bravely and fearlessly. A few more things you have to remember here is the spelling and pronunciation. Spelling of simile is easy to be remembered. Just remember the spelling of smile, S-M-I-L is smile, then add one more I to after letter S. So it will be our spelling of simile, and don't pronounce it as simile, but it is simile. Next is metaphor. It is a comparison again like simile, but the only difference between simile and metaphor is that in simile you use words like so, as, or like. In metaphor, you don't use words so, as, or like, but you compare two things directly. Example A, she is a fairy. Now see the difference between example A in the simile and example A in the metaphor. In simile, we said she is like a fairy, and in metaphor, we say she is a fairy. So like has been omitted. Example B in metaphor, he was a lion in the battlefield, or he fought like he acted like so when you say when you say he was a lion in the battlefield, you didn't use words so, as, or like, so it's a metaphor. But in example B in simile, in the first one, use the word like, so it is simile. Now again, one more thing you have to keep in mind is that wherever you see in any expression you see or hear words so, as, or like, it would not mean that it would definitely be simile. For example, if I say I like trees, there I have not made any comparison, I have used the word like in some other sense. So in both simile and metaphor, comparison is compulsory. Comparison between two things which don't have equal status or equal importance, that is also compulsory. And third thing is simile will take so, as, like, Metaphor will not take any of this. Simile and metaphor can be converted into each other, as we have done with the example A. She is like a fairy, so you can say she is a fairy. Or instead of he is a fox, or he is like a fox, or he is cunning like a fox. Next is personification. In this figure of speech, as the name suggests, personify means to make something a person which is not a person. So we personify inanimate objects, means non-living things, elements of nature, abstract ideas or emotions, and we present them as living beings. So what are the possibilities which are presented as living beings? Inanimate objects. Look at the phrase below the word personification. The first is inanimate objects, means non-living thing. Now look at the example A. The wolves were staring at the guests. So this has been taken from some story. When the guest entered into the room, he felt as if the wolves were staring at him. Now here the wolves are non-living things, but they are presented with somebody who can see, because for seeing you should have eyes, and you should have uh, understanding of knowing. So this is how the personification has been used here. Example B, the Himalaya witnessed the bloodshed of our soldiers. Now Himalaya is elements of nature. It's one of the elements of nature. It's a mountain. Mountain cannot witness the bloodshed of a soldier because it's a dead thing. But here Himalaya has been presented like a person. And then abstract ideas. So example C is an example of abstract idea presented as a living being. See example C. Necessity is the mother of invention. Here when you say the mother, it means she will definitely be a woman. So necessity is presented as a woman, and invention is the child of that mother. So invention and necessity, both these abstract ideas, are presented as if they are alive or they are human beings. Example D shows that the emotions, how they can be present as living beings. Little sorrows sit and weep. So here you can see that sorrows means miseries are shown as if they are sitting and they are crying. They themselves are crying. So they are presented like people. So this is called personification. So as the name suggests, personify means to present as a person. Next is apostrophe. It's a direct address to a dead, to an absent person, or personified object. Now there are three things here. One is it's a direct address. So you have to remember, address means calling somebody. So it's a calling, the speaker or the writer would be calling somebody, but that somebody would be either dead or absent or personified object, as in the personification. We will take all the examples. First, a dead person. Example A. Bapu, look at the condition of your people or your nation. Now here the writer is addressing Gandhiji, who is not alive. So this is an example of apostrophe. Example B. O Pataliputra, where have thy glories gone? Now here it is an example of personified object. Now here the object is city. City has been presented like it's a person. Now you will see that this is example of personification also. Now see the similarity between personification and apostrophe, that in apostrophe, if the thing which has been addressed is not a person, and inanimate objects or idea, all the things which have been mentioned here in personification, inanimate objects, elements of nature, abstract ideas, emotions, if they are not only presented as living beings but also being addressed or called, it would become apostrophe. So such apostrophe examples would be counted as examples of personification also. So apostrophe, in a way, one type of apostrophe is type of personification. Fifth is hyperbole. Remember the pronunciation, it's not hyperbole, it's hyperbole. It's an overstatement, exaggeration. Exaggeration means to say something with more intense effect. with more intensity. Example A, I told you a million times, but you can't remember. So here the speaker is telling the listener that he told him a million times. Now this is quite not possible that he must have told him million times, but he simply means so many times. So to emphasize and to make his speech expression effective, he uses this special type of expression that's called hyperbole. Hyper means more, over. Example B, virtues as the sands of the shore. Now here the virtues means good qualities of some person has been presented as the sands of the shore. Now sands means grains of the sand, so they are innumerable and we cannot count them. It means countless virtues are there. So this is exaggeration, it's an overstatement. One more thing you can note here is the virtues have been compared with sand grains using as. So this is example of simile as well. So you have known that in same expression more than one figure of speech can be used, so that's possible. I'll give you an example. My love is like a red red rose. So here three figures of speech are there. My love is like a red red rose. The love has been compared with red rose, so it's a simile with the use of like. Red red, the word red has been repeated twice, so it's an example of repetition. And r sound has been repeated in red and rose, so it's an example of alliteration as well. And you can find some more in the same sentence, so you can try, it's your homework, you can try if anything else is there in the same expression. Let's move to the next. The sixth is metonymy. Metonymy literally means change of name, but you have to remember symbols are used, or this much you can remember, symbols. Metonymy means symbols. Example A, from the cradle to the grave. So when somebody says our journey is from the cradle to the grave, it means from childhood to death. So here cradle symbolizes childhood and grave represents death. Example B, I have never read Chetan Bhagat. Here Chetan Bhagat represents the works of Chetan Bhagat. So this is change of name and it's called metonymy. Seventh, transferred epithet. In transferred epithet, adjectives are used for another name. For example A, sleepless night. So suppose there is a sentence, he spent sleepless night. Here night is not sleepless, actually the person who is spending the night is sleepless, but the adjective sleepless which was to be used for the person has got shifted to the to another name, that is night. So that is called transferred epithet, means transferred adjective. Sunburn mirth. Mirth means joy, sunburn. So here it means the people who are sunburn and they are happy, they are enjoying sunshine. Noisy class. Here the class is not noisy, but the students are noisy, but the adjective noisy has been shifted from students to the class. D, melodious plain. Now plain means here means meadow, grassland. Here it is melodious, means musical. Actually either the people or the wasps and honeybees or nature, because of the because of either people are playing some instruments there in the plain, or they are the sounds coming from nature, can be honeybee, a wasp, or a stream or brooklet. Number 8, synecdoche. Keep in mind the pronunciation along with the spelling. Pronunciation is synecdoche and not synecdoche. So synecdoche. Here part is used for to represent whole, whole is used to represent part. Example A, all hands at work. Here all hands, it's a description of a ship where all hands were at work. Here hands means crew, the members on the ship. Crew means what? The people working on the ship. So all, here hand is a part but which represent the whole of a person. C, England won the match. Here England won the match means the team of England for particular sports for example cricket. So the cricket team of England won the match, not the whole country. But here the whole, the word England is for the whole country, which represents particular part of few players. Number 9, euphemism. Euphemism is better words for unpleasant or offensive words. It's a use of better words. For example, A, he is telling us a fairy tale. So instead of saying he is a liar, you say he is telling us a fairy tale, not to offend him. B, he passed away. So instead of saying somebody is dead, you can say he passed away. So in our day-to-day speech, many times there are many words which we don't want to use or which should not be used. We use euphemism. For example, he went to washroom. Or when you say if somebody is not somebody is limping, you can say like he's differently able instead of saying he's disabled, or you can say physically challenged. So these are called euphemistic words. Last for today is dysphemism. Like euphemism is dysphemism, it is opposite of euphemism. Example, instead of saying he's eating meat, you say he's eating flesh. Instead of saying that he wants cigarette, you can say he wants cancer stick. So dysphemism is opposite of euphemism, means it is used to use offensive words or explicit or direct way of saying something without hiding anything. So the purpose can be to hurt the feelings of the other person, or sometimes to give some message. We will discuss them again when we will do the exercises. For now, we are stopping here, and in next presentation we will discuss some exercise based on this. But before that, we will discuss some more figures of speech. I hope you have understood. Thank you.